Hello and welcome to a new episode of the BIMvoice podcast. Today we have with us the managing director at Building Smart Norway. Welcome, Alexander Brage Hansen.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you here.
Well, it's nice to be here. So I'm looking forward to speaking with you, and hopefully I can put some light on our view of things within openBIM and the work we are doing in Building Smart.
Awesome. Let's just start by introducing yourself then.
Well, most people call me Brage, and I am then, as you said, the general manager of Building Smart Norway. I have been working here since the 1st of March. So, and the first thing that actually happened then was the COVID-19 situation. So ever since I started working with Building Smart, I've been in my home office. So it's been a challenging start. And also we had some problems doing the general assembly. So we haven't gotten to electing a new board until I think last week we got the new board. Or it will be 4 weeks ago when this is published, this podcast. So that has also been challenging, being kind of in between boards. But now, luckily, we have a new board. I will be having a meeting with them shortly, and we are ready to go from autumn. So a bit about my background. I'm a I'm civil and environmental engineer from the Norwegian University of Technology and Science, and mainly within structural engineering. So, and I have been working for construction material suppliers, for construction material producers, for a software company, contractor, and also I was with GS1 for a period, which was also a not-for-profit organization working with standards. So I have kind of a broad experience from the construction industry. Mainly the first years working with marketing and sales, and then the last 10 years, I think, with digital transformation and digital strategy. That's what I was, So, and now I am with Building Smart, which I think is very exciting. Being able to work with a whole industry and seeing how we can change the industry into using more open standards and taking the fully benefit of the BIM and openBIM.
Yeah. And we'll move closer. Implement quicker as well. Digitalization maybe.
Adopt. Absolutely. And using open standards. And we see, I think, I mean, a lot of the industry is quite developed when it comes to using openBIM or just BIM in general. I think that Norway is one of the most developed countries worldwide when it comes to using BIM. And we are using, 3D, we have the next step 4D, and we are starting to use 5D, which is kind of when you put the costs into the model. But still, we see a lot of the industry is not on board, because I think the construction industry is very fragmented. So we have all from the very large contractors with several thousand people employed, having an income of several billion Norwegian kroners. And then we have the smaller companies, which is just one person like yourself, like a small contract, could be a small contractor, or maybe just 2 or 3 people employed. So, and I think for those people, they find it harder, or maybe they're not interested in doing the whole digital transformation because they don't see the need for it. I think they are kind of doing maybe rehabilitating jobs or just doing smaller jobs in their hometown or in that area, and they are happy with how things are working out.
I understand. What is your definition of BIM?
Well, except for building information modeling, of course,
yes,
or
of course.
building information management. I think for me, BIM is about cooperation, about better involvement throughout the supply chain. So you will have less errors, more efficiency, hopefully, due to the fact that everyone has, or everyone should have, updated information in real time. Which, I mean, we're not there yet, but that's, I mean, I think that's the goal we are working towards. So I would say for me, well, you could say it's digitalization, but then again, digitalization is just a tool to reach some kind of goal. So I think for me, BIM is about collaboration. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very well said. Collaboration, it's one or the most important cornerstone in BIM. And honesty is also something that must come together with collaboration, because it's that's the challenge actually, to break the silos, right? We try to break the silos and collaborate instead of just working on ourselves, not sharing the information, and something
Definitely.
vital. Mm.
I feel that there's a lot of good initiatives going on when it comes to digitalization, but it is like it's silos, as you are saying. I mean, there's a lot of things going across the supply chain, but quite many of the initiatives are in a silo. So it's I mean, the contractor union, they have their view on digitalization, and you have then the RIF. So we have EBA, which is then the contractors. You have RIF, which are the engineers. You have Byggevareindustrien, which is the construction products producers. You have Virke, which is the production producers. The construction products retailers. And you have all these organizations, and they kind of have their view on how things should be, which are quite good, I think. Very good for them. The problem is that it doesn't always work when you are working across the supply chain, which, I mean, that's what we are basically doing in the construction industry. Most of the time, you don't have these big companies who can manage everything themselves, at least not in Norway. So you need to collaborate. You need to work together with other companies, and then you need to look at digitalization across the supply chain.
Yeah, exactly that. I think it's too little focus on the purpose of the building or of the project, and mostly like we as designers or contractors or retailers, material retailers, focus only on their part. They don't think, very few, or if they think about why would that person, how would that person will use this building when it's done, and how do you manage to do that best? You cannot do it only thinking from your perspective. You need the contractor's perspective, you need the engineers, and you need the client, the client that is going to use. How much the client is involved in the process today, I think is too little. I might be wrong, of course, but I think the clients are involved too little for different reasons.
Could also be, I was just thinking that a lot of the times, at least in the private industry, the clients might not be the ones who will be managing
drive the operations and manage the building, the project.
Yes. So then the client might just be interested in building, having the building constructed, and then he will sell it, or she will sell it. If the clients were to also manage the building, they would make sure that whatever information they need in the end is in the model. So
okay, so they just want to have the project done, so they can just get rid of it. But this is valid for mostly for private customer owners, right? Because if you take roads administration or buildings administration or railroads administrations, they must maintain and operate the projects themselves, right? And they must be okay. That's interesting. I did not know that. I did not think from that perspective. I was thinking like I was saying this like, the who is building it would be incentivized to invest more in the start, because in the maintenance phase of the project is the most costly, right? Because you use it over many years. And if you have a 3D model that it has a lots of detail, it's going to be so easy to maintain it, right? But
Yeah.
then if you say now I need to rethink about this because someone who just want to get rid of it, but then we need to educate the buyers that they need to have
Yes. Yeah.
as best as possible documentation so they
Yeah.
can use
Yeah.
it for the easiest and to reduce the cost a
Yeah.
lot, right?
And I think you have a good point. Of course, if you look at the governmental or the public companies, they will make or hopefully make sure of this because they will be managing this building for maybe 50, maybe 100 years. If you look at Forsvarsbygg, the defense
Defense
department, yeah, defense. They might be they might have this building for 200, 300 years. Who knows? And I just spoke with I speak a lot with the governmental clients like Statsbygg. They are also on our board, and they have the way they see it now is that you start with a very high detail level in a model. You might have an architect, and then you have an engineering company, which the detailing and the quality is very high. But then they see as it goes through, the different to the contractor, to the subcontractors, the construction material producers, it kind of
misses.
loses its quality. Yeah. So, and I would imagine that, this is a governmental, they will be managing these buildings. But then if you look at the private client who is kind of into building, creating buildings in order to make a profit, I would suspect that they don't have those interests. They are just interested in getting a building, which of course is a good quality, but then the BIM model might not be the quality that the manager needs. And I also, when I worked for Maxbo or Løvenskiold Handel, which was then Løvenskiold Retail in English, and they have
Yeah.
several companies, and also they have a property developer. And I spoke with one of the property developers, and he who is one of he is managing the buildings in the end, and we spoke about that problem because he hadn't really been aware of this. He was, when he started working with Løvenskiold, and they have all these warehouses which they need to maintain. And then he thought that, well, maybe we can use this BIM model, because they always order a BIM model when it's being when they are doing the construction phase. But and then he was kind of interested in seeing, okay, how can we use this? Could we use it for maintenance? Could I use it for kind of calculating areas when I order different services? And then he started, looking into this, and he found the same thing, that the models aren't really they are
Good
not to the
enough.
quality he needs.
Good
No, they're
enough
not good
to
enough.
be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because there have been some changes along the way, which are probably good changes, I would guess. But then his model isn't correct.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think I know why is that. Because
Uh-huh.
if like this is it comes out from exactly what you said. They did not know how they might use the model. Okay, so that
That's
means
true.
that they did not have any
Yeah.
requirements when they
Yeah.
asked for the project to be built,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
the designer will design the building, even if they use most advanced tools and everything, but they don't have the needs of the customer in focus, or
Yeah.
the needs
True.
of the contractor that is going to be built, which is also
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
quite dumb, something
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
found out it was quite interesting. I had a talk with Øyvind Kjølesdal from
Yeah.
AF Gruppen, and he told me that they need to remake the BIM
Ah.
models to be able to use them. They are not usable how
Ah.
they get because they are not good enough from the designers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is only a miscommunication or misunderstanding or not requirement from the bigger from the asset owner, right?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to say, yeah, we did not, nobody required this. You don't need that. So you
Yeah.
need to do it, start from the scratch and do that. So this is for example, if you involve all these parties, what and the asset owners will start like, what do I need? I need to design this building, right? And you ask the designer, how are you going to design this? And after that, the contractor will say, well, did you thought how are you going to uh, build this? How are you going to move those parts, or how this process will go, or the how we will get these materials delivered to our site? Or this is the most value is missed here
Yeah.
because the lack of communication. And
So
it's difficult for someone who, like right now you have, I completely agree that the designers, I'm part of consultants, designers, how you want to call them, we have the most advanced tools, but we still think just for us, not, but because nobody's requiring this, so it's like a vicious circle, because it would be in everybody's interest to have
yeah.
um, as effective as possible the process, because you can incentivize other ways the build. Yeah, I think this goes to smarter contract forms, like EDP. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't remember that one, but it
I don't
was
know the
a
English.
really
Yeah.
interesting kind of contract where
Yeah.
it was not encouraged, like the billing hours. To you had no incentive. You wish to finish quicker, so you get the biggest
Yeah.
margin, the most profit from it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you you pay for the performance and not for the laziness or
Yeah.
dragging on the project,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I've also heard about contract models where you kind of split we are saying that, okay, this will be the total cost of this project, or we believe this is the total cost. And then if you go, the project costs more, then everyone has to pay extra. Or if the projects cost less, then everyone gets a part of this, because depending on the contracts, it might be the way that the contractor is, or I'm guessing this has to do with the codes, the construction codes we are using. The contractor might be left with the complete profit, and then maybe the client doesn't have the same incentives or the architect to kind of create models or work in a way that the construction company saves money. But then in the end, if everyone is sharing this, then I mean everyone would be interested in making
quicker and best possible. Exactly. That's so true. You are talking about the same contract. It's called integrated project delivery.
IPD.
IPD. Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know how much, if this was tried already in Norway. I'm not aware about this.
I think that I'm not sure. I think there has been like several steps of development within that kind of contract. So
I need to learn more. I need to learn more about it as well. I think it's used already in US or something. I think I will try to get in touch with someone from there and have as a guest.
Yeah, that would be very interesting,
to learn more.
I think.
Yeah, I'll try to do
I was
that.
just thinking that, because this turns back to, we were talking about the silos again. So maybe that should be Building Smart's role then, I guess, maybe to kind of break down these silos and creating this understanding across the value chain. Because I think as an organization, I mean, Building Smart being not for profit, we don't really have any interests in specific parts of the industry. Our interest is among the members. Whatever the members feel we should prioritize, that is what we will prioritize. So, and then we're not like these these
trades
trades organization,
yeah,
that are looking at specifics, and doing politics and making sure that the codes or the contracts or whatever is in favor or respectful towards their members. Maybe we could. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I think Building Smart until now has mainly focused on creating standards
yeah,
and kind of networking, creating, saying that, okay, we have these different groups within our network. So if you are very interested in BIM collaboration format, well, we have a group discussing that. If you are working with reinforcement, we just recently started a reinforcement group of companies and also people actually who are very interested in how we can create reinforcement or bending the reinforcement directly from the model, because it's also there are several steps you have to go through. To start with a BIM model, and then the contractor or the subcontractor needs to order this from a supplier, and then the supplier needs to produce it, and they have different systems who is running the machinery.
Exactly. Yeah. There are so many chances to get lost something in the process, to get delays when you have involved so many parts.
Definitely. I remember I worked with reinforcement a few years ago, and then we started, looking into how we can do it digitally. And we had these very small problems, which kind of became big problems. Like for instance, when we started testing, taking the reinforcement from the BIM model and then importing it directly into the system. Because what's usually being done is that they get lists through fax or email or whatever, and they will be punching it manually. And then when you punch it manually, I can make an interpretation and I can change and I can, So what we realized when we imported it directly from the model, say you are going to make an angle, and then maybe the angle becomes upside down, which isn't really a problem because, the angle is the same if it's this way or this way. But for the machinery, which is bending the bar, then the bar is being bent the wrong way. And then it might actually hit the operator, because that's where he's standing, he stands there and it's supposed to bend away from him, and then it bends towards him. So I think it's like strange things when you are trying to move digitalization from one silo, if you will, to the next one. And I think that's what you're saying. It means that, the previous silo or whatever you would call it, they need to have
they need to be like aware of the next person using it.
Yeah, definitely. So they need to say that, okay, when we are exporting these things from the model, we need to make sure that every bend is in this direction. Or if not, we need to make some kind of in-between software that can actually make sure that how the bend is, it will always be like this.
Yeah.
So
when I read openBIM, first thing coming to my mind is like we meet in a room, like contractor or asset owner, designer, material supplier, and everybody talks open about how do we do this for the best of the project and the quickest possible way with the least impact on the planet. Like,
why don't we do that in every project?
yeah. It's a very good point. I think we are too conservative. I think we are afraid. I think fear is behind this. Like we are afraid to lose leverage or something. But I think like to grow as a society and as a planet, we need to work together. You see, this is the best way you can achieve the greatest results. Just working together.
So it's kind of about trust then. We could almost say.
I think trust and honesty, but it's very important here. It's vital, but just I think everybody thinks they have the leverage or the upper leg, and they
Yeah.
don't want to give up to that. So when that it goes directly against the principle of open, right? That is what
Yeah.
open is.
Yeah.
I don't know if you are maybe aware about the open source mentality from software. Like
Mm-hmm.
open source software, it's out there.
Yeah.
Everybody can come in, plug its ideas, and try to do something to
Yeah.
help that
Yeah.
project, right?
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
there are some persons that manage the project, and if they agree, the work is approved, then yeah, the project came further, right? So that's why
Yeah.
that's how you got Linux, for example. Linux is
Yeah.
very popular. It's open source. It's free. There are so many softwares out there
Yeah.
that compete with bigger companies, and they are maintained and made by software
Yeah.
developers. But yeah, for us it's very it's a little bit, unfortunately, it's a little bit not so known, this mindset, this mentality.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is BIM. This is
Yeah.
in the footprint of BIM. This is
Yeah.
in the DNA of BIM, right? Collaboration. You cannot have collaboration if you are not open, if you don't share everything. But everybody must do the same, right? But it's not
Yeah.
so easy. It's easy to talk about it, but
Mm, mm,
after that,
mm.
then you have many people that are not very open to this. So it
Yeah.
takes time. It takes time, but I think the one who will do that will win the most on the long term.
Yeah. Well, this leverage part, I guess, is a good. I feel that kind of pinpoints what I'm feeling every once in a while. Well, now I'm not in the. I haven't been in construction meetings for several years, as I've been working with like an enterprise. I worked as an enterprise architect for the previous years.
Yeah.
So mainly with the internal systems, how they should work, how we should prepare. Actually, what I've been working with for the previous years before starting with Building Smart is how we can make the basic like the IT foundation within Löwenskiold Handel or Maxbo ready to collaborate or speak with the BIM model, which is, I mean, it's challenging because most of these companies, these older companies, they have huge legacy systems. They have systems that they have been developing, working on, making small quick fixes for 10, 20 years. And
Yeah.
then when you are trying to make that speak with an external software, from another silo, then you have, as long as everything is internally, everything works fine.
Yeah.
Everything is top notch. Or of course, you have some smaller problems, and then when you try to speak with a new external systems or just external systems in general,
Yeah.
then it becomes huge problems. So that might also be an issue for creating this new level of collaboration. Is you have all these legacy systems there.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can't throw them out, or I guess you can. The best thing would be just throwing them out and then starting all over. But then, I mean, companies, they have invested several millions or billions of kroners into these legacy systems, so they are not
Yeah.
you're not very keen on throwing them out, and there's also a huge risk in changing systems.
Yeah.
So you might not be willing to take that risk.
Yeah, I
Uh,
completely agree. I completely agree.
yeah,
But that doesn't mean that you don't must consider alternatives, and not only that,
yeah,
like innovation, right? Just try to imagine if Amazon or Apple would not think about their customers when they build their products.
yeah, yeah,
Like it's happening right now for us, right? Like
yeah,
the designers design the building after,
yeah,
yeah, how they want, or after the standards, of course, but they don't think about the
yeah,
real use of the
yeah,
building. The contractor is the same, and nobody thinks like for real about
yeah.
the customer. There is going to
That's
be a
true.
person that is going to jump
Yeah,
in this pool or something, like
yeah,
very
yeah,
detailed. How
yeah,
do we do that? How can we use that? how that is going to be a problem for the maintenance and everything. Like, I mean, like
yeah,
real
yeah,
think about the customers. How are they going to
yeah,
use this
yeah,
button on
yeah,
the phone,
yeah,
right? And why
yeah.
do you need to design? Imagine, imagine that. How big would have Apple been today if they would not
I,
think about the customer?
Yeah, and
There
I
was
think
no
that
Apple.
might be, and maybe that's why Apple became so big, because before Apple you had Nokia, which kind of had a complete market, and these
Exactly.
have, well, the phones were fairly simple in the end, but in the start I remember I had a Nokia phone and it has all these different buttons. I didn't really understand what are all these buttons doing, because all I want to do is make a call
Yeah.
or write a text. And I mean, that got better and better, and Nokia, I mean, they were very big, and then suddenly they didn't realize that the customers wanted something different, or maybe they realized but they were kind of afraid to change, because they figured that, well, we are so big in this market that nobody can challenge us.
Too big to fail. The wrong
Yeah, yeah,
mentality.
yeah,
Kodak did the same. There are many companies that did the
that's
same.
true. Yeah,
And
yeah,
what do you think our industry is special? Why our industry won't be exposed to that? If
yeah. I think that would be interesting. I mean, now we have companies like Spacemaker who have kind of use artificial intelligence, or, well, sometimes I start to wonder what is artificial intelligence, but I'm guessing you could say there are different levels of artificial intelligence. So they are using artificial intelligence to kind of make early decisions of how you should develop an area, a complete area, taking into view sunlight or noise and all of these different challenges, which, you mean, earlier an architect would maybe make 5 or 6 or 7 different proposal. Spacemaker does like several thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of different suggestions, and then it kind of shows you, well, these are the 20 best, and then the architect can start working with this.
yeah,
So I guess that will be interesting to see how the construction industry changes.
yeah, but I think like
Yeah,
if we are waiting too much, that's another reason why I started this podcast, and this is the signal I want
yeah,
to get out there. Like
yeah,
what like you need to take. It's not so difficult to take a look at the car industry. Just look how Tesla
yeah,
grew the
yeah,
last years,
yeah,
right? It's going to happen to us as well, and if we don't involve in this, we are just be sidelined,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
it's so easy. So
yeah,
we have the means, and we just need to want to do something more about that, because
yeah.
we yeah like uh, in the last episode of the podcast I talked with somebody, Robin. uh, he told me like the Romans used drawings to make their roads. They
Ah,
use drawings. What is the
yeah,
difference between that time and now? They use hammer and everything.
yeah,
We did not change too much in the last 2000 years if you think really thoroughly
yeah.
about the situation.
That's true. Yeah, yeah.
So
We have some new techie tools, but we still work the same way.
yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have only robots building or
No. Yeah.
sensors all over the place. No, no, no. We
Yeah.
are far. We
Yeah.
just piloting and trying. But yeah, I think we had our time, and maybe this is the last chance we get to do something. And yeah, it's in our best interest to, if we
Mm,
still want to be, would like to be a part of this amazing
yeah.
industry,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it won't be possible to do that without collaboration, because if we will keep fighting and maintain this small-minded mindset,
Mm,
then
mm,
just going to come up somebody who'll just replace everything. I think it's just a matter of time. So yeah, we need to be open. We need to be willing to learn more, and
yeah.
we need to be willing to cooperate more with other parties.
We have this one member, Holte, and they have some very interesting projects, because what they have tried to do is use. I mean, we have several members who do a lot of interesting projects. But I was just thinking of this one Holte project where they get a BIM model or an IFC model, which then again, I mean, you can export an IFC for most softwares used now. I'm guessing every software which is being used now. And they import that into their system, and then they have this database which has like prices of, they will have them prices from Moxpo, for instance, and from Optimera or whatever, and they will have your personal prices. So they will import the software, import the BIM model. The BIM model will go through all the products as long as it has the properties. It will make selections on what building materials it thinks you should use, and then we'll add the prices. And then the next level they are looking into now is that they also have in this database estimated time it will take to mount a door or build a wall or whatever. So they are now looking into, could we kind of automate the whole scheduling of the building from an IFC?
That sounds
Which I think
interesting.
is kind of, and then something interesting is starting, then you don't have the people who are making the plans in Microsoft Project or whatever tools they are using. Then the construction planning is suddenly automized, and I'm guessing if you then could kind of track what is being actually done on the construction site. Maybe, for instance, saying that, okay, now suddenly a delivery is delayed. Maybe you have ordered some special kinds of windows or whatever, and that's delayed due to some issue at the producer. And then the manufacturer will then say that, oh, well, okay, sorry, we have a delay. We have a 2 weeks delay. And then maybe, the model could just recalculate saying that, okay, well, when we have a delay here, we will just do this instead. So I think there are a lot of, as you say, there are a lot of opportunities there, which we are not really now grabbing. And if the industry doesn't do that, then probably it will be disrupted by some other, like maybe Tesla, I don't know, or Amazon.
Yeah.
These huge tech companies who have all this technology and don't have the legacy systems and are thinking differently on how you should erect a building.
Yeah, sure. Like right now, I think they are most involved with trying to develop unmanned driven cars.
Yeah.
But after they achieve that, we might be the next one, because I've seen already Elon Musk. I don't know if you definitely. I think you've seen that. I think you commented on this article in Big Industrian. Elon Musk, associated with some Norwegian company, would like to involve in Fornebubanen
Yeah, that's
to
true.
make the
Yeah.
tunnel.
Yeah.
So
That's
I think we are not far away from
yeah.
something.
Yeah, that's true. That's very interesting. And it's not that strange, I think because the construction industry is the biggest industry. If you remove offshore and I don't know, the salmon industry, or if you look at just the land-based industries in Norway, the construction industry is by far the biggest.
Not only in Norway. Sorry for
Oh yeah, I
interrupting.
guess.
It's
So it's
all over the
interesting.
place. Yeah, it employs
Yeah.
a lot of people.
Could that be a problem that, you employ a lot of people, and if you start automating processes, then people will be out of
I don't think
work?
so. I don't think so.
No.
You find new roles. You
Yeah.
just need to retrain people, but
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
need to be willing to retrain.
Yeah.
We will have new roles, like you see right now. It's happening. There are some things like going more digitalized, but you need people
Mm-hmm.
for decision making, for creative things. It's I don't think that's a problem. But it's it's not only that we are the biggest industry. We have also the biggest negative impact on our planet, and we cannot
That's true. Yeah.
go on with that
Yeah.
forever, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
you
That's
see
true.
the effects of the global warming.
Yeah, yeah. If you were to look into if every developing country were to construct like we are doing, making roads, making housing, that would be a huge impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I guess that because in Romania they take over 20 years to make a highway, then it's good for the impact on our environment.
Could be. Yeah. Could be. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we might have it done by 2030. They
Yeah.
started for many years ago.
I was just thinking because you were speaking of open source, it would be interesting to if someone were to make open source BIM software, and that might already
There
exist. I don't
is,
know.
there is,
There
there
is.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. There are some tools, but of course they are not so. They are. It's almost impossible to compete with the bigger ones because they
Mm-hmm.
have a too much money
Yeah.
in this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's too much interest, and yeah, you need people to use a lot of time to make something more better, right? But there are
Mm.
for I know there are some like tools like BriskCAD, if I'm not mistaken, is like a kind of Revit or AutoCAD 3D something. There are more tools, but like I said, they are not quite there because there is not enough is no funding. Like
Yeah.
because we need like maybe for programmers what it was easier because they did it themselves, but like we need to learn. Either we need like engineers need to learn,
Mm,
civil
mm,
engineers
mm,
need to learn programming
mm.
and do it, or yeah, you need I don't know exactly, but it's there is room for lots of improvement,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah. And I'm guessing also it's different people. I mean, the people developing Linux, as you mentioned, I mean, they are very interested in computer science and probably working within computer science.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
mean, the
but
people, yeah, people working within the construction industry, they might not be as interested in developing software. I don't know.
yeah, we go in that direction. Either we like it or
Yeah,
not. You see,
yeah,
right now, uh, the biggest companies are not are focusing to use more parametric design instead of just modeling.
mm, mm,
They use a lot of tools like Grasshopper or
yeah,
Dynamo,
yeah,
or you can use visual programming to make your project, and it's very helpful because you can the editings. If you edit something, if you update anything, you get it live. So it's we go that way.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I think not we don't need, at least in Norway, not in a lot of time they are going to be like this is like a new skill, you need but not only for our industry, but in our industry is going to be like a mandatory skill if you want to work as a engineer or civil engineer or whatever.
yeah,
I've seen it already in many job ads for bigger companies. I've seen
yeah.
this requirement, or not a requirement, but they said that this is a
I
big
need, yeah,
advantage if
yeah,
you do it. And not only that, I think like globally, like every no matter what you do, even if you're using Microsoft Office and such, but if you learn a little bit of Python and you can use some
yeah,
visualizations
yeah, yeah,
tools, you can tap into lots of powers
yeah.
that it will enhance your work a lot. And this, like I see programming like becoming like English language, very important skill to have that
Yeah.
will help you no matter what you do. No matter what you do, it will help you.
When I studied in Germany for a year in Karlsruhe, and I actually had programming there. I had this subject where we were programming a finite element method design software, FEM design software, which we just programmed in Visual Basic, and it was connected to Excel, so you could type in values in
Mhm.
Excel, and then it would do the calculations.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about how the finite element method works, but I also got experience with how a code is written. And that have actually helped me a lot ever since. Like just looking into an IFC as text, just opening it in Notepad, or well, Notepad might be the optimal, but you have different kinds of good softwares. You might actually, I mean, an IFC is complex, but when I worked with reinforcement, I kind of could find the places where the values were in the IFC. So I think you're right. Through learning visual programming, that might be the next step. Because I know that just learning, and I also were coding HTML web pages in Notepad. And because at that time, we had a subject where we were supposed to deliver part of the project was to develop. We were creating this kind of, or like this company. We were supposed to imagine a company, and then we were creating the company. So we were kind of creating the basic idea of the company. We were creating the home pages. We were then kind of constructing the building that this company was supposed to be in. And then at that time, there were some limits if you were using the standard softwares for creating HTML or web pages. There were some limitations. So then you had to go in and kind of code it directly. And I think I learned a lot from that. Just being able to kind of understand how a software works. Like an HTML is fairly simple, but or at least the basics of an HTML, and that has developed a lot since then. But then when we were programming in Visual Basic, learning how the software works, making rules, then and all of this is quite.
Yeah, you get to the
you get a
next
deeper
level.
understanding of how things work, which I think is important for at least for engineers to get that kind of fundamental understanding of things.
Yeah, I think it's happening. And who's not going to do that will just be left out. I don't see any other way. It's happening.
And it's very impressive when you see this visual engineering, as you said, like you have companies. Well, I'm just thinking of Snøhetta, but I know there are several other companies doing this where you can just, like, as you said, just make changes to the facade, and then everything is created.
A new iteration,
iteration, and then when you're going to produce this, you could think that you could then have, because then what most of the time happens is that nothing is standardized. I mean, I guess you could put that into the script that it's supposed to be making standardized shapes, but you could say to the software that, well, you're not supposed to, you are completely free in whatever you would like to do. As if we are looking into production, if we could produce materials directly from the IFC, then I'm guessing that it doesn't have to be that standardized. If you change production lines, I mean, a lot of production lines in the industry is based on standard products. So if you make anything different from the standard, you have to pay extra in some way, because then it's manual labor, or I don't know. So making things more.
Maybe a big 3D printer.
Maybe a big 3D printer. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
will change that. I think there are great progresses in that area as well. And if we go back to building smart a little bit, what is in your agenda for the coming years or months?
Well, my agenda is actually doing some of the things we were speaking about, kind of breaking down the silos, making the industry work more across the supply chain. So building smart we are working on a new strategy, which we need to involve the board and also maybe some of the members, but due to this COVID-19 situation, we have just been working on it internally. So what we are thinking now is that our new strategy will be built upon our standards naturally. So we have ISC, we have BCF, we have BSTD, we have these several different standards. But we are also involved in a lot of different standardization projects in Europe, in CEN, ISO, and also at NS, Norwegian Standard. So my colleague Chi is project manager of several standardization projects. So that is kind of our fundament. And then we have the network, which is on top of that, which we have all these different groups kind of discussing how should we solve specific problems in an IFC. We now have a law room which are discussing the law when you have, say you put an IFC in a cloud, then what happens if the cloud is in Ireland, if all of this data, if I let you produce directly from my BIM model and then suddenly I change something in the BIM model, who is responsible for this? Because, well, we have all these different law aspects. So we have some lawyer firms and also some governmental stakeholders discussing that in one room. So we have all these different groups where people are discussing, and some are kind of working groups. They actually produce kind of white papers or guidelines or whatever. And some of them are more for discussion and for sharing knowledge. And then on top of that, we will be working more, I don't want to say political, because that's more like what these unions are doing. It's more like working with this kind of breaking down the silos, making sure that the government understands the importance of using open standards and thinking across the supply chain. Because if you are going to work across the supply chain, I think you need to use open standards. You need to, and not only building smart standards, you need to use GS1 standards, which has identification standards and standard for barcodes, etc. So that you avoid proprietary, is that correct word? Systems. Because then you're kind of locked, say you have a building, you are going to manage it for 50 years. And then if you have a proprietary system somewhere, that software vendor kind of has a huge control of your system. And if it goes bankrupt, then what happens then? So when you use open standards, then you have a more higher flexibility. You can change softwares without getting that huge an impact. You can get offers from several different companies because the way you have built a lot of your the collaboration within your systems, the assets are using open standards. So I think what we will be working on is kind of trying to break down these silos or these barriers, trying to get people to understand that, well, you cannot just look at one isolated sector. You need to look at and get this understanding you were speaking about. We cannot only speak with people, the normal people we are speaking with, which are the ones who are very interested in IFC and BIM and understand all of this. We need to speak to maybe boards of directors. We need to speak to like the private clients you were speaking about, that we were talking about earlier, making them understand why is this so important and what are the benefits and the opportunities of actually using open standards. We need to speak to a lot of people, I guess.
Yeah, to everybody.
So that is what we are. Yeah. so and we are also then trying to build up the Building Smart brand, if you will, kind of making it more people. I mean, within the our members and kind of where they are, Building Smart is very well known. But when you come to other parts of the industry and on a higher level, we are not known. So we need to kind of build that knowledge around Building Smart. What is our agenda, if you will? What is it we believe, and why is this important?
And maybe to reshape the culture in our industry. I think that should be one of the very, like you said, like cooperation and breaking the silos, trust and everything else included here. But it's a cultural change, a radical cultural change in our industry, like from this small-minded, siloed mindset. So that should be like, I think it's, I see good work from Building Smart. It's really nice to see that.
Yeah.
I see COVID actually helped this, at least from my point of view. I heard much more about Building Smart in this time than before. I was willing to see more webinars. I was not traveling to meetings. So this is very important. And this I think this is something that the culture, a new culture. We need to reshape our culture. That
Yeah,
just we need to get out of our comfort zone and embrace new ways of thinking.
yeah. And I think I also think that Building Smart, as we are a not-for-profit organization, we are open to everyone, and everyone has an equal
Right.
right. Yes, if you are a small company, if you are a big company, you have the same rights and you have the same impact. You could always almost say. I think we could gain that trust, as we were speaking about previously. There is something with trust. We don't have like trust between the silos, and maybe we don't have the trust in a project. I only believe in myself and my needs, and I don't really trust the other companies in doing what is in my best interest. And a lot of these unions, they of course they have their members' agenda, which is and kind of, it might be the trade, it might be the contractors union, it might be the consultants union.
Exactly.
And I think we are in a different position because a lot of these unions are members in Building Smart, and we have this, or at least we want people to understand that we are neutral within all of this. And I think we are probably, if not the only, then at least the biggest neutral organization around BIM or digitalization, if you will, in the Norwegian construction industry. Maybe also the biggest in the world, I'm not sure. I mean, we are an international organization, so we have a lot of local organizations throughout the world, and new are coming all the time.
Yeah.
So I think we have a special standing there. I know there's a lot of initiatives from the constructors union, for instance. But I think even though a lot of their initiatives are very good, you might not get that trust, which people might be thinking that, well, this is good, but I don't know if they have an agenda behind this. So I believe that Building Smart, as not-for-profit, as neutral, we have a golden opportunity in being. I mean, it's not our job to change the industry, but we can kind of help the industry into making this change somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, it's. I think Building Smart can be that reference or origin point that everybody can revolve around. It's definitely something like it needs to be, and like we were saying earlier, like the first reason, like the first step to learn to go, like to improve, it's like information like this. Everybody needs to understand why this is important. So if we make that clearer, like is this the objective of my podcast as well, to help people understand better why do we need to go to this next level, and then it's going to be easier to understand and get motivated to do it. And after that, like we have already this wrong ways of working, like with not coordinated projects from the start, not good enough requirements and everything. Like I think to get to quickest possible there, it's not to just it's to find a way to educate and inform the decision makers, the people in the highest positions. Because right now, like you said, like there is a lot of interest, but it's for nerds, if I can say that, for me and for others that are very interested, and they find they see the potential there. And but we cannot decide a lot. We try to do our best, of course. I try to do this podcast, for example, but maybe 99 like me that are maybe more passionate about me, they don't do that, because it's not easy to go out and make yourself vulnerable and expose yourself, right? So and we can change very little, but if we become more and more, that is going to happen. But it would be much easier if it comes from the top down, right? If you have a
Absolutely.
leader, a director, or someone who buys
Yeah.
into this vision, then it's going to be much easier to be listened from the other ones, right?
Yeah.
So because I see this in many organizations, they don't have a clear vision about this. It's very
No.
very
Yeah.
confused, very confused, and
Yeah.
this is one of the reasons, I think.
And that might also, I guess, has something um, with competence or with knowledge. The people who are in the board of directors or the higher level of management, they might be people who have been worked in the companies, like the higher level of management may have been worked within the company, so they know the company in and out, and they have kind of worked their step this ladder, but
Yeah.
then they just know their company, and they might have been only employed with this company, so they don't really have a feel for what goes in other companies or what goes in other parts of the industry. And I'm guessing also a lot of, or at least my experience from working with digital strategy and wanting to do all these different kind of projects, a lot of the time you need a business case to present to the board of directors or the top level management. They want a business case, and a lot of the time I think it's hard creating a business case on making this change or starting to work differently, starting to trust across the industry. And I think if we go back to Nokia or we spoke about Kodak, this Kodak moment.
Mm-hmm.
Kodak actually invented the digital camera,
Yeah.
but they were like, oh well, there's not really a business case here, so they just put it in. They just buried it in some kind of cellar, because they were working on producing chemicals for what you call it
To
for
develop
to
pictures.
develop the pictures. Yes.
Yeah.
And film, of course, and all of these things. But I believe, if I remember correctly, their main area of sales was in chemicals. And so, starting then to work with digital photography was like, well, and I'm guessing the board of directors, they were like, well, we really make a big profit on these chemicals. Why should we do something else? And the industry has been like this for hundreds of years or whatever. When the photography was developed, it will not ever change. So maybe we need to educate the people who are on boards of directors and top level management into understanding this and making the right decisions. And if you don't, or just saying that, okay, we will hire someone who has this knowledge and we will trust him 100% or her.
Yeah.
If she tells us that this is important, well, then we need to listen to her, we need to trust her, and we need to make that change. Even though I don't understand it, I believe that this is important for us.
To get to that belief, it's important, but because there are enough competent people that can this, but like you said, I think they need to see something palpable there. But this is I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about this for a few episodes back. I've seen after talking already with 7 other experts, I got already to this conclusion. I see where is the bottleneck. It's there. It's there.
Yeah.
We need to don't we need I'm thinking I try to think how can you get them, how can you get in contact with them, how can you expose this to them, because it will happen exponentially. The growth is going to be exponentially, not
definitely. And you have this well, that's the Kodak moment. This point of no return, when you realize that, oh, now it's actually too late to make this change.
Exactly.
I've seen these graphs, I don't know if you have seen them, where you have this, of course, it's exponential curve. And then we as humans, we think linear. So we look on growth or development like a linear line,
Yeah.
and then you have this exponential growth.
Mm-hmm.
So when development starts, we have these expectations for growth, and then you have this exponential line, which it's just straight in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So you have these expectations, and you are kind of disappointed because you're thinking, well, nothing really happens, and
Yeah.
then suddenly you get this hockey stick, and then it's too late to change, and then we will be, oh, what happened now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I
then
guess that's, yeah.
You as building smart Norway, I think you have lots of. It should be very easy for you actually to get in contact with these people. For me, it would be very difficult. Nobody will
Yeah,
look at me.
yeah,
But
yeah,
for you, would be they will listen to you.
yeah. And that kind of, we have been working on our strategy now since we got stuck in our home offices,
Yeah.
which is kind of then good because we then had a lot of time. And I think that's, as a not-for-profit organization, I think that's one of our advantages, and also one of our privileges, is that we can take a lot of time in developing our strategies and thinking about things, because people like you or our members, they are not really in contact with us every day. So you see the webinars and you feel that, well, now things are happening. So
Yeah.
we don't need to make that very quick change as private companies might have to do, because
Yeah.
they have this board of directors or whatever who is expecting something to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So we have spent now a lot of time just discussing what do we think is important, what positions should we take, and our conclusions are much the same as you are saying. I think we have we have the possibilities of taking that position, and I think we should take that position because it's important for the industry, and it's also important for our members. Some of our members, like our software vendors, they have put millions into developing technology which is based on building smart standards, and a lot of them also invest time every day in developing our standards. We have a lot of software companies really involved in our network, and also internationally, and working within standardization.
Yeah.
And at some point, they should get some. They should be able to collect on their investments. I think that's only fair, and that's also part of our job, making sure that our members are happy, and the members who are then developing these open source softwares. We should make sure that the industry demands that, and we should make sure that the consultants, which specializes in BIM and this open BIM mindset, they should also be prioritized within the industry. I think we owe that to our members, and that's also part of our agenda as Building Smart, is to I wouldn't say please our members, but well, I think you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I think that would be very interesting. So we are really looking forward to starting to work with this. So
Yeah.
This autumn we will be moving to NHO, where all the union work, most of the unions are there. So we will be sitting together with the contractors union, a lot of them, BNL, EBA, all of these Norwegian acronyms, making it easier for us. You're not just talking with them, by the coffee machine, having a small meeting, maybe go out having a beer. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds like a great opportunity right there.
Yeah. Because Building Smart has kind of gone through steps. We started, when the organization started, it was just a project, and then Sten Sunesen was the project manager, and then at some point they decided that, in order to have this running, we need to establish it as an organization. So they made these submission fees, etc., and Sten Sunesen was able to be hired 100%. And now, of course, you need the office and you need all those extra things.
Yeah.
And then he had his office at Standard Norge, which is the Norwegian standardization organization, which was naturally, because at that point you really needed to develop the standards, you really needed to have all this work to get
Yeah.
this level that you can build upon. And then when at some point Sten Sunesen is architect, so he went back to working with architecture, and he's now the chief architect, I believe, at Statsbygg. Anstein Skinnaran took over as the manager, and then after a while they moved to Mesh, which is a co-working space, in order to be more in contact with being centralized in Oslo, that's for one thing, but also being more in contact with entrepreneurs or startups, seeing if Building Smart could get some benefits from being in such an environment, seeing, okay, we have the standards, now we need to develop, we need to create these networks. And now we are going to the third level, where we are saying that, okay, now we have the standards. Well, they are being developed continuously, but we have standards, we have softwares, we have procedures, we have all of these things we need, processes. We have the networks, we have the people, they are learning, they are developing. And then the next level would be working, making the industry understand the importance of this work, and specifying, or I mean, just understanding. If you get the understanding, then you will specify, I think. We don't need them to tell, well, I think you should specify that when you are building a building, you need to have an IFC in the end that you can use to manage the building. When they understand this, of course, I think they will hopefully specify it. Or if not, they will end up as a Kodak company when other clients who are starting to make these demands, and you can say, well, I have a building here. It's a good building. I have absolutely no documentation. I have no idea how things are working, but I would like to sell it to you. And you have a different company saying that, well, I have this building. I have a BIM model. Everything is in there. You can see the square meters of area. You have the lighting, the painting. Everything is described in the model. The carbon footprint. You have everything. Then I think it's clear what building you would buy.
Yeah. I completely agree with that.
Yeah. So I think that if you have a building which is very well specified and has a BIM and it has all the documentation you need, I think that building should be worth more in the end than a building without the documentation.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's much like buying a car. If you buy a car, you would like to have this document saying that, well, I have done all the services, I have done all these things, all of these things have been done to my car. At some point I changed the gearbox because it was old, I fixed the engine. You want all this documentation in order to tell the buyer that this car is really well taken care of. Here is everything you need in order to maintain and enjoy your car. But with buildings, it's sadly it's not that way. I mean, you buy the building and then you're kind of experiencing the problems or the challenges as they arise.
Yeah. And then you need to use the warranty and go to lots of headaches to fix some problems.
And there might not even be a warranty, because I think according to the codes, the client is just responsible for, or the contractor is just responsible in 5 years. And I mean, a lot of the problems doesn't arise within 5 years.
Come up exactly afterwards. Yeah. Why to inform the customer? Let's just get the money and
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of reports. If you just Google around, you'll find reports by McKinsey, by the World Economic Forum. There are business consulting groups. There are several reports you can read about how the constructions industry need to change in order to, in the end, save the planet. At least if you believe in global warming. Then if you don't believe in global warming, then you have no problems. But if you do believe in that, you realize that we have a problem, and we need to fix it some way.
Yeah. We need to acknowledge the value of other parties in the process.
Yeah.
This is going
Yeah.
to be a little bit challenge because I think it's also this biased right now, right? Like the designers think they do the most important part, constructor thinks he's doing it, and they don't see it as a team member. They see it as a someone who just put some obstacles in the way of the project. So it's the mindset that we need to
Well,
work
that's
on.
also interesting, I think, when you start to look at lean and how you can kind of, and there are some very interesting projects there when it comes to lean and how you can use industrialize the way of constructing and making everything run smoother. But then again, that leads to, I'm guessing you need very well high quality of information when you're doing this planning. You cannot end up finding a lot of errors as you go along. Everything needs to be kind of lined up when you are doing this lean process.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned VDC earlier, I think ICE meetings. So I think there's a lot of interesting things going on.
That's a good approach. That's an approach where you actually work together, where you say what you think and you can act upon right there, right?
Yeah. I have never attended an ICE meeting as no, as I haven't. I mean, I haven't been working as well. I've been working with digital strategy and enterprise architecture and those things. So I haven't really, even though I'm a civil engineer, I've never been involved as a civil engineer or as a structural engineer.
Nobody, not everybody is involved in this. It's and not every project uses this. And for those who doesn't know what ICE is integrated concurring engineering, where you have different parties, designer and the contractor, and they talk together about the issues they have, and they fix them right there. So you save lots of feedback back and forth. So
I believe I read somewhere that integrated concurrent engineering was developed by NASA when they had this space shuttle program, because they needed to, I can't remember which president ordered the space shuttle program, but they needed to develop these space shuttles very fast. And so they realized that, the normal way of working doesn't help. You cannot work that way if you want to build something very fast.
It's too slow, yes.
It's too slow, yes. So I believe that was developed during when the space shuttle program. And I'm guessing then, based on the ground control that they have, when they sent up the first people to the moon or whatever, well, you have this room where everyone is, every expert, the communication expert, every expert that is in that room, so you can get the decision you need straight away. And I guess that's the interesting thing about, or at least I believe that's the interesting thing about integrated concurrent engineering, is that you get that collaboration, you get everyone, you exchange the model, you can see it straight away, you can discuss the tasks, you realize what you need to change, you can change it then and there if you have the correct tools.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know how this happens today, if this is a requirement from the asset owner in the contract, or if the designer and the constructor are agreeing to do this. But it might be, I think the asset owners are also involved in this. I'm not sure 100%, but I think I read somewhere. they
Yeah.
said about this. So yeah, this is a very good approach. Yeah,
Yeah.
is this how it should? If this is working well, why should not just this be used all the time?
Yeah.
What are the
Yeah.
challenges?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to talk with someone who's doing this, so to see
Yeah. You should.
what on why don't we do this at a larger scale?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, now we have proved that we have the technology. Everyone
Yeah.
has been in their home office now for 2 or 3 months.
Mm.
Clearly, we know that speaking together across a digital platform,
Yeah.
if it's not possible to have everyone in the room having this conversation
Mm-hmm.
on digital platforms,
Yeah.
works as well. So I
Yeah.
think, and that will also be interesting to see if the industry somehow changes after this period now, where we have been relying so much on these digital tools to
Yeah.
get the working day,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
to manage everything.
I think at some extent will just become the new normal. At some extent,
Yeah,
now I think yeah, at least the least it will happen would be that people will use more, at least digital meetings or virtual meetings, right? Right,
yeah,
with
yeah,
software there is like, and you can save some time with that as well without needing to
yeah,
travel and
yeah,
such. So at least that I think is going to happen a little bit more, but I don't know to what extent. Maybe some other companies will just keep working this way. Maybe they will. I'm sure there are going to be companies that will allow their employees to work sometime from home, which is a big
yeah,
advantage for
yeah,
everybody to have
yeah,
as a flexibility, right? So
yeah,
there are more things, and yeah, we is going to happen more and more afterwards. But I
yeah.
don't know if everybody will do this and right away, right?
We had this very interesting webinar um, a few weeks ago, which was on augmented reality and virtual reality, where we had Ramböll. I believe it was Ramböll, Asplanviak, and Veidekke spoke about how they use virtual reality and augmented reality. And we saw this presentation in Veidekke where they are actually using augmented reality on site. I mean, they are in the test phase now, but where you can then have augmented reality, so you can see the construction in front of you. You could import the BIM model and see that. You will have the consultant is there, so you can see the consultant. In currently, it was just in Windows. I think they connected it to Teams,
Yeah.
but it gives a lot of opportunities to see how things are, and you have great tools now in order to place the IFC within the actual environment, so you can see have I constructed it correct? How will it? Have I excavated the right amounts of dirt or soil or whatever?
Yeah.
Um, which is interesting to see how that will change the industry.
Yeah, will definitely
Um,
speed up to some extent
yeah,
the operations, of course. But yeah, it takes time. It takes time, you see, and we go with small steps.
yeah.
Yeah. Where do we go from here? What do we do? Like, what should we do to help with this cultural shift? What can each of us, like a entity, like a person, or like a participant in this industry, how can we what kind of resources should we use to at least for the ones who want to improve themselves, to learn more? uh,
I think um, a very important thing is sharing about your experiences, and not only the good ones, also the bad ones. When something went completely wrong, why did it go completely wrong? Because I think most of the time people do not share those things. They just share the
exactly at
yeah,
conferences you see only the positive
yeah,
and the shiny
yeah,
and bright
yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah. So I think that's one thing. And I think we also need to get people together. I mean, the boards of directors, the top level management, and the people who are actually doing the work out there. Everything from the reinforcement workers to the consultants, architects. We need to create that better understanding. And I'm guessing every one of us, well, there's a lot of noise out there. When everyone starts to speak out, I mean, there will be a lot of noise or a lot of, it will be hard to navigate in that environment. And I sometimes feel that the problem we also are having now is that we get all these conferences. There's like, we have several conferences now in the construction industry. So all these conferences are kind of cannibalizing each other.
Yeah, it's like they unfortunately they look like other silos. They are new silos.
Yeah. So I think a good thing would be, and I mean, we also have a conference in Building Smart, but we are kind of now re-evaluating that, seeing if we, because of this problem. So we see that a few years ago, we gathered many people from the industry, but now as we get more and more conferences, it's kind of going down to the hardcore Building Smart believers who are at the conferences. So we are kind of thinking that maybe, and we see, I mean, the webinars we are doing now, it's getting more and more people are viewing those, and I think it's a good format. We just have half an hour, so it's kind of easy to go through them. So we are kind of looking into other ways. So maybe we shouldn't do the huge conference. Maybe we should solve this in other ways. And I think it's important to get these places where people can meet and then attend them. And I think that's something hopefully everyone can do, is attend. If we could like have, say we have this, I know that BIMvoice, which is the huge main construction supplier conference, or it's a trade fair every second year. It will be the next time. It will be next year, and they have this. They would like now to gather kind of, because they are actually, until now they have just been there in two silos. The construction product retailers and the construction product producers. So that's kind of like two silos, and then they have managed to gather those in one area. And then, of course, there are a few contractors there, but they're more like clients, just walking around looking at what's going on.
Yeah.
So now they are trying to build this platform to gather all of these people. So I think then attending these forums and maybe looking into, maybe we shouldn't have our own conference. Maybe we should concentrate on a huger endeavor, seeing if we can make something big together, which kind of can get a bigger interest. Because then hopefully we can tell all these stories, all the competence that the people who are out there maybe telling these stories to the top level management. So I think the main reason is what people could do, then just to summarize it up, is start trusting each other, hopefully. I mean, it's hard, but and collaborating and sharing. I think sharing is important in whatever way you can. I mean, some of us work for huge companies. It's easier to be heard. Some work for smaller companies, and it's like harder to get that time in order to share things. But I think if we are to learn, we need to share, and maybe not be afraid to try out, test things. I mean, every once in a while, if you test something, it will go completely horribly wrong. But then hopefully you learn something. And we need to maybe accept that things will go completely horribly wrong. And I don't mean then that you didn't reach your budget or go above your budget. I mean differently.
Yeah.
that's saying, okay, we tried to construct this building, produce everything from the IFC model, and it didn't work out. But something worked, but we didn't. I mean, if you look back to when I worked with Celsa Steel Service, that is what we did. We tried this, and people said, "Well, it's not possible. You cannot do that. And why would you do it? You know, the way we are doing it now has worked for hundreds of years." And we said that, well, at least we have to try. And it went horribly wrong sometimes. Of course, it did. But then you learn from that, and you evolve as
you
a
get
company,
better.
but also as you get better.
Yeah. That's a good advice. How can somebody contact you if they want to ask you something?
Oh, you can find me on LinkedIn. If you would like to get in contact me, you can. I mean, my contact information is on our homepages, so you may send me an email if you want to. It's just brage@buildingsmart.no. Call me whenever. Maybe not like after 8 o'clock in the evening, but I mean, I am available. So please get in contact with me. And I will see what we can manage together. Email, LinkedIn, phone, whatever. We don't have a fax, so fax doesn't work.
I'll make sure to put that in the show notes.
I also have a Twitter profile as well, which is Digital Brage, kind of a combination of my name and Digital Brag, I guess. But I haven't been that active on that Twitter profile for several years, actually. So I'm trying to be more. So I'm not sure if you contact me on the Twitter profile, you will get much answers.
I understand. But I did not use. It's not very popular Twitter. I don't find Twitter very popular in our industry, or not in Norway at least. I started using right now with the podcast and made a profile and try to contact people, and I see in US, Australia, UK there is quite a lot of people using it, but in Norway it's not very popular. Like I think we rely mostly on LinkedIn for professional.
I guess that was kind of my experience as well. And I try to be whenever I communicate, I try to have a good something interesting or something valuable, something you can learn from. And I found that Twitter, it's just short messages. It's very quick, and it kind of dies. It's just there, and then after a few minutes or an hour, it's old. So I found that using LinkedIn.
But then you can use Twitter to share a link to your LinkedIn post. Then you can use that. Because I'm using Twitter for this, to share a link to my podcast, for example. So this is another way you can leverage Twitter, actually. Because there are people that use most or more Twitter, right? So you can. This is a way somebody might see something that they did not know about.
Definitely, that could be a good
channel.
idea. But I think if you just Google my name, you will easily find my contact information. It's also in the phone book if you have one.
It is really nice to have you here, Alexander. Thank you very much for taking the time.
It's been fun, and it's been good attending here and speaking with you. I've learned a lot myself, so thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.